Hi everybody, it's good to see you again. This is Mary Catherine and I'm back with more fun in my studio. This little video will be about all of the felted slippers that I've made. Now this is going to take us way back into early August maybe. I'm not sure how far back it's going to go, before my West Virginia trip. And it's going to take us up to the last pair that I made, which I'm just going to show you right now. I finally did figure out how to make a perfect pair of felted slippers. Oh, which ones do I like the best? Haven't made a pair in a little while. This is a really nice pair. I like how I finally decided to do the opening. I'll talk a little bit about that. A nice rounded opening that's easy to get your foot into. I like these colors. This is the blue that I have so much of, and we'll look at that too. So I have, I think, made 11 pairs of felted slippers. And that's 22 slippers altogether. And I've sold a few, and I'm sure I'll make some more as the fall progresses and they start to sell at the farmer's market. I'm not going to make any more right now because I haven't sold any there yet. But the weather's turning chilly and it's time for felted slippers, and I'm wearing my nasty little felted slipper right now. So let's go back and see what happened with all of my felting slipper adventures. Here's the knitting I did for the black and blue slippers that I'm going to show you in just a second that I fussed with. All right, another felting mystery. Well, it's not so much mystery. I have to show you these black and blue ones. That's what I'm going to call them, is my black and blue slippers. Now, and I've already shown you a bit of what they look like before I felted them. I've put them through one full load. Now, the black yarn I used is not super chunky at all, but it is a heftier yarn. It's not worsted weight. It's not massive though. Let me see, for comparison, here is worsted weight Patons, and here is the black that I used. Okay, so there you go, but not much bigger. And then the blue is this. Now I know for certain what this is, and it is thick and thin. Some of it is chunky like that, and then you go along and you get a thin section, so it's quite variable. The blue yarn, you know what I have to do here. The blue yarn is made by Manos del Uruguay, hand spun, pure wool, kettle dried. So it is pure wool and definitely felts, as you will see. Now you would think that the black, being thicker, would felt better and tighter, and that I was always worried about this skimpier yarn, that it might not felt as well. There's just not as much of it. Look what happens. Look at this slipper. Look how the black felted. Now it did fully felt. You can't see rows or stitches or anything. It looks really beautiful, but it felts at a totally different rate as this does. I can get my foot in there. It's kind of a funny fit. I need to trim up some of these edges. It's a very doable thing, but the rise back here is quite tall. I'm thinking about putting it through another load. I think this would felt down more. It would reduce more, but this might also, and I'm worried about that. But look how beautifully that felted. Oh my goodness, it's thick. Has a little light blue toe. And again, that blue, you can still see a bit of the stitch work, but just not much. But this felted gorgeously. I love that. I wish I could find more of that. I tried to look online. I found a store near me, a specialty yarn shop in Morehead City, North Carolina, that is supposed to sell this brand, but I don't know whether they sell this actual yarn. And this is all that I have left of this, is this small blue ball. It felt so beautifully. I felt like I should save it and make something special, like a little teeny purse or something out of it, instead of just using it up on the toe of a slipper. So the question now of course, is what do I do with this slipper? Because it's just not quite what it should be. Has a nice big opening. It's easy to get in. I went back to kind of my original version of the knick-knack new pattern, where I cast on 36. I worked until I got to the round. I worked 27, and then from here to the toe, no, from here to the beginning of the reduction was 19. I think it was about 22 total to the toe. I don't think I can leave them like this. It's just too weird. But don't you? I don't know. I like this felting and I like this felting. I just don't like it together. I know so many of you out there are going, she's crazy. Why is she doing this? I love sticking it in the washer and finding out what you're going to get. If I had paid an arm and a leg for this, believe me, I am money conscious enough. I would not be doing this if I had paid money for this yarn, but I don't really remember if I bought this or it was given to me, but I'm just about at the end of this freebie yarn, and it's time to get more serious about how I use this kind of yarn, that kind of yarn, which is $7 a skein. And I don't want to be wasting that. Maybe I should tuck it out like a little, ooh, like a little collar, like it's supposed to be that way. That's a thought. Actually, some slippers are made with a little collar like that. I'm going to trim all these loose little things off. So there's the latest. How many pairs? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think this is the 7th pair of slippers I've made. And I am not tired of it yet. Well, these might have to be a little gift to somebody like my mother. I think the opening goes down a little bit too far. They're a little bit long. The toes look like little fairy shoes. Although if you had socks on with them, it would work. I've turned down this like a little collar, and that makes it fit better. They're very cozy. I don't know. I think they look kind of strange. So I'm going to adapt. My first ones I made, it came right around here more. I think I like that better. Just very quickly, this morning I wanted to do a little review of the slippers I've felted so far. This is probably more of a record keeping for me. I apologize for the wobbly camera. I'm holding it in my hand because I have already packed my tripod to take to West Virginia. But I want to remember these slippers and just generally what I did with all of them and do a comparison, little shot here. So let's go. Pair number 1. This is the pair that I wear. This is the Franken slipper. All of these slippers, all 7 pair, were knitted with a single ply, except this one. This was a super bulky double ply. But all the rest of them were with single ply yarn. I think that's important to remember, although some of the very best felting yarn is Patton's classic wool, which is regular plied. I don't think it's like an 8 ply or 4 ply or something like that. So these are a little bit big, size 9. I wear them all day, every day, just about, unless I go outside the house. This is also a size 9. This was all with the same type of yarn. I had a lot of different colors. This is the same color here. There's the light blue. These felted really well, even though the brown was a bulkier yarn and the red was a thinner yarn. I used up almost all the purple there and finished off the green. I really wish I had some more of these colors. That was so much fun. Then I went to this. This is the one I plied when I was, not plied, that I felted when I was in the mountains with that other machine. And you see how the stitching is still so evident. At first I thought that those 2 reds were the same yarn, but they are not. Yeah. So these are about a size 7. And I have a friend who I think wants these, maybe, unless I make a pair that she likes better. She also wants 2 pairs. Additional pairs, one for each of her daughters. I think one daughter might wear about a 7. Then comes this pair. This was with the pixel yarn from Joann's, which is super bulky. This was 2 skeins, or 2 balls, And they're a size 6. They turned out so short, and I think maybe my daughter can wear them if she wants them, if she wants something that stiff. They are like little boats. The reason why these are lined so flat is because when I store them, I do fold them this way, okay? And this pair as well. And, of course, mine are sitting open because when I wear them, they're like that. Okay, after the butterscotch pair, I went on to the same pixel yarn, but I split the yarn, and I showed you a video on that. These ended up being about a size 7 or 8. For comfort, I would go with a size 7 so you could wear a pair of socks inside of them. They didn't really look longer than these, but they are. They're more flexible also because it's really half the yarn in these as in this. Then I went on to the Nordic, Joann's K&C Nordic yarn, and did these. And I don't have any more of that. I only got 2 skeins of that. The thing I didn't like about these is the lines it leaves here. Okay, and there was even one big kind of gap. I stitched that up with some thread. For some reason, the join here, I don't know if it was the joint or the increase, just, it's the same increase I used on the others. Those are a nice large size 9 and more like a boot, so they give good coverage. They're nice and stiff and well felted. The stitching doesn't show through there much, but the lines do of the stitches. Okay, and then there's the little fairy pair I finished last night. I thought maybe it'd be nice to use that thicker black on the heel so the heel would wear well, because that's where most of your weight is. So we'll see if anybody likes those. They have a more open look in contrast to this more boot look. So that's the lineup so far. Kind of a motley crew, aren't they? I don't know what to think. This is the extent of my experience in felting slippers. The hats I had a lot more success with, right from the get-go. The slippers have been quite a learning experience, and I'm about out of all of this kind of yarn, and I'm about to have to find a different kind of yarn to use. Which brings me to another point. Still remaining in my bag of yarn from Joann's are 2 skeins of this. It's made by Luxcrafte. I don't know anything about them. Buttercream, that's obviously not the color. They're calling it roving, which is interesting. I think it's not thick and it's definitely twisted, so I don't know why they're calling it roving, except for that it is a single ply. I think that this might make a really good slipper. I think one of these skeins would make one slipper. Because the yarn just really seems to resemble what I used for this. And so I think it will felt well. Again, another experiment. I might make those while I'm on my trip, or I might make one last pair with all my various crazy colors. I have a good bit of black left and a little bit of this blue. Isn't it funny how that blue felted? Maybe this was a different blue. I really wish that yarn had been labeled and I knew where it came from, but I didn't. All right, so there's the slippers. Thanks for tolerating this mess. Hello, dear friends. Well, I'm back home. And it feels very good to be back home. I thought I'd better catch you up in this little video on the felting that I've been doing. I made 2 pair of felted slippers while I was on my trip. One for my daughter and one for my mother. My mother was absolutely tickled pink over her slippers, and she wore them the whole rest of the time I was there because she didn't want anything else on her feet. So that was very nice, and she'll enjoy those. So I'll share that felting with you. But first, here's a pair of slippers I made for my daughter on the trip with a very low heel, so they slip on easily. And then here's the pair that I made for my mother. On the bottom you see the knitted slipper, and on the top you see the felted slipper. And you can see how much reduction there was. These are the ones that she loved so much. You will recall that when I went to Montreat, we stopped at a Joann's fabric store and I bought some yarn. with my friend who went with me, and I bought the really big pixel yarn and the really chunky Nordic yarn, and I felted some of that. The other thing I bought there, I think I got this there, is I got 2 skeins of this. But it's a Joann's brand name yarn. You see that little kitty cat tail over there? He's trying to settle down. He's not used to me being home. Anyway, 100 grams. It's the type of yarn. They just call it roving. And we've talked about this, I think, before. That's probably because it's a single ply. Okay, so this looked really good. This looked very similar to what I'd had before. I thought it would work. So I had 2 skeins on sale for like $2.49 a skein. So I got that. This is a size 5, 100% wool. Okay, this is what I made my mother's slippers out of, and it worked great. We'll look at that later. So I was like, well, that's very nice. Wish I could find more of that. That's a great price for 100 grams. Didn't know how it would behave at the time, but I was pleased with that. So then I went on my trip, and I thought, aha, I'm driving through Virginia. What if I looked for the Joann stores along my route? Well, lo and behold, there was one in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. So I stopped there. What did I get there? I'm having a hard time remembering what I got at the different stores. I'm pretty sure I got this. This was on sale because it is a lion brand. I apologize to those y'all in other parts of the world that don't have the same brands as us over here in the States. This may not mean as much to you, but this actually says perfect for felting. Okay, so that tells you everything. I'm going to save this and make something really fun out of it. Maybe I should make my own perfect pair of slippers out of this, or hat or something. I'm going to save this one. Okay, there's a receipt. I need to save that too. Okay, and that was, and I think I also saw some more of I'll call this the Luxcrafte Buttercream. Okay, and I was like, oh, I saw some more of that. It was also on sale, so I think I got some more, and I think that's what I used up to make my mother's slippers. So I can't show it to you because I've already used it up. Then I found another Joann store in a place called Midlothian, Virginia, just southwest of Richmond. And I walked into that store and I was stunned at the size of it. It was massive. And I accidentally talked to the manager. She just happened to be there when I was looking for help, the store manager. And she said, yes, this is one of the largest stores in the whole eastern part of the U.S. Now, we don't have a Joann store where I am, very close to me. That's why I had to look for them on trips. But they have quite a few in Virginia. So anyway, huge store, massive yarn section. Now, I don't need a bigger yarn stash, but I do need felting yarn because I cannot find it in the big city near me. I can't drive to find felting wool. I'd have to order online, which I may in the future. You don't get quite as good of deals, though. They don't put it on clearance, online. So anyway, I went to, this is so embarrassing. I'm so mortified because I think I might have ripped off. I think I did rip off. Poor old Joann's. It was a total mistake. I was so fixated looking at the yarn, okay? And so I'm looking at this yarn. And I'm like, that's that yarn that I found at the last store. I want more of that. So I was like, and I looked at it and it wasn't on sale. And I told the store manager, I said, the other 2 Joanns I've been to, this yarn was on sale for $2.49 a skein, and I have both of the receipts. I have one receipt in my purse. She said, oh, well, we'll match prices. Okay, and so, and it's just, I mean, it's exactly, I mean, I didn't have the skein with me, but it looked exactly the same. So she said, I said, is it just in the blue or any of the colors? She said, no, any of the colors. And so I didn't wipe out their supply, but I did put 2 of these, 2 of these, 1 of these, and a barn red. This is why I was confused. This is why. Because they had all of this together. I want you to look at this. Buttercream Luxcrafte KNC. Now, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but those are exactly the same color. That's exactly the same skein. I kind of hadn't realized it until this very moment. This was also right in there with it. It's the Luxcrafte, but these are KC. KC just stands for knit crochet. What has happened, of course, is that Joann's has decided to just kind of change their labeling and their branding. This was their previous store brand for this. Both of them are called Roving. This says Roving, and that says Roving. Okay. It's just fascinating. But I'm so fixated on the yarn itself. My eye is looking at, oh, this is the same yarn. I didn't even notice the labels. So I get up to the register. The manager strolls by and tells the sales lady, says, yes, you can match prices on all of this yarn. So she gives her approval. And I'm just clueless, and she's typing in my phone number and all that, right? And so I get all this wonderful yarn at this price, and I take it to my mother's house, and I open it up. And I realized this yarn with the black label, the KC, this stuff was supposed to be, it was priced at $8.99 a skein. And I got it for $2.47 just from asking. But I felt like, I just felt terrible. I really felt terrible. I mean, it wasn't a lot of yarn, but still. But I got some colors that I want. But this, yeah, I don't know about that. That's just weird. That's the same. Anyway. So there you go. I ripped off Joann's fabrics. I'm sorry, Joann. Apologize. So now I have to tell you when I was very, very naughty. When I left my mother's house, I looked up one last Joann's store in Lynchburg, Virginia. It was in a mall. I nearly got lost getting there. It was a pain in the neck to find. It was opening day at the local colleges, so the traffic was horrific. And when I finally got there, I couldn't find their yarn department at first, but at last I did find their clearance yarn. And this is what I bought. I was quite wicked, quite wicked. I don't know how many, it'll probably take me the rest of my life to felt up all of this. And it's all the same color, which is a little discouraging. I would have liked to have had a variety of colors, but that's what they had. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 of this. I don't think I've used any of it yet. So I've lost track. But I will say that this is all what I will call honest yarn. It is all Buttercream, Luxcrafte roving with the clearance sticker on it. I'm sure they were glad to get rid of it. I'm glad to have it. Well, I'm back with a little bit of felting advice or a little idea here. I am making another pair of slippers. This is the first one, and I've started at the bottom, and I'm about to join it and begin to knit in the round. Okay. And I watched a video, I don't know who it was, and they said that if you want to join your knitting, to start knitting in the round, a good way to do it is to slip a stitch as if to purl. So onto that needle. And then, almost as if you're casting off, to grab this one and bring it over. Okay, and now you've joined your two. And I did that for several times, and I'll tell you what I got. I got a hole right here in my knitting. Her point was that if you did it this way, that you wouldn't have this big gap, okay? But I ended up with a gap anyway, and a gap I had difficulty filling. As a matter of fact, on my mother's slippers, I think it was my mother's slippers, ended up taking a little piece of yarn and actually running it through the slipper this way to fill up that hole before I felted it. I was a little unhappy. So I'm going to go back to what I was doing, which is just to go straight into knitting in the round. Now, her complaint against this was that this will separate and you'll get this long bar. But if you keep that tight and you note when you come back and you always keep it nice and tight as you go, I found that my slippers that I did this with, just a regular straight in the round stitching knitting, that I had a better join, a smoother join, a join without holes. So maybe you'll find that too, not sure, but I thought I would just mention it. I've finished, I don't know what number slipper I'm on now. I probably should count. That's 7, 8, 9. This might be slipper 10, I think. So I put a little bit of crochet, just a little line of crochet trim around the opening. You know what crochet trim does? on knitting. It tends to pull things in and tighten it up. So this opening is snug, and I can get it on my foot. These are size 9. I followed the pattern I've been using. I'm kind of set on that, at least for size 9s. There's so little difference inch-wise. Let me show you this. This is what I wrote down. It's easier than say it at all. If I taped up there so I wouldn't lose it. So here's the different sizes, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't have anything written in for 8 yet. But you see how close those inch numbers are for the different size women's shoes or foot length. So, yeah. Anyway, but this fits me once I get it on. It is a little snug. I like mine looser. This is that Luxcrafte Buttercream Roving from Joann's. I have years of this thing. It's this stuff, it seems. So, but I did do them twice. They were a little bit long. I did fast loads on my washer. So came out the first time. I did this like in the middle, not midnight last night because I couldn't sleep. And so I put it through a fast load, and they had felted some, but they were still pretty long. So I put them in again, and they felted really well. You can just barely see any stitch definition at all. I'm very pleased with that. And so yeah, nice pair of slippers. Because I do feel like they're a little hard to get on, and I'd like to. I did earlier. I got a couple of books, and I can't get it in there now because I really had to work at it. But I put a book in each one of these openings to stretch it out. See if I can get it on there again. I don't know. I did get them both on there anyway, and I left them there for a couple of hours. This is a Miss Reed book. Thank you, Miss Reed. I love the illustrations in Miss Reed. Aren't they cute? If you don't know Miss Reed, you might want to discover Miss Reed. She's a character in Doris Saint's little books. She's lots of them set in England, in a village in the countryside in the south of England. Oh, post-World War II. Well, for decades, really. Anyway, digressing. So, slippers continue. I'm very pleased with these. I'm excited about felting. I just need to be careful not to ruin my thumbs with too much knitting. I need to back off on the knitting every night. Yeah, all right, so there we go.